Hello, hello. Welcome everyone. Hi, my name is Bill Free. If you haven't been here before, thank you for joining us on this new book study of Rupert Spira, The Art of Peace and Happiness. And I'm really looking forward to spending the next 6 weeks with all of you and with our co-hosts to just dive into this material, it's just another masterpiece of Rupert Spira. And of course, all of us we just love Rupert and the way he expresses himself, and his devotion is so evident in the material that he writes, and the way he writes is just so clear. And so I'm just going to introduce the book study first to all of us, and we have about 10 people that are here in the call-in feature. Welcome, call-in feature, you guys that are here on the call-in live. And like I said in the opening, that if you have something, a comment or something you would like to add to the program, we can bring you in audio. Just raise your hand by pressing *2 on your phone or your computer. And on the video feature, we work this. You're welcome to chat on the board with us. Just put your chat in, and we'll invite questions if we get time for them. We have a few questions that came in by email, and just by reference, if you have a question about a particular topic or something that's relevant to the book, and you want to email ahead of time the questions or the comments that you have, you can email billfreeonline@gmail.com, and I'll have those questions in advance of the show. And the show is going to be made up of 6 weeks. The book is basically broken into six, even though it's not laid out as chapters, they're pretty much chapters. There's sections of essays that are titled. And the way I have set this up is that I've invited a co-host to join me each week on each of the sections that we'll cover. And this week is Our True Nature. It's chapter 1 in the book, and our guest co-host is Arthur Gay, and I'll introduce him in just a minute. And um, our second week will be hosted with Kimberly. She'll be the co-host, Kimberly Cartwright, The Nature of Peace, Happiness, and Love. And the third week is going to be Jenny Beal, and we'll be talking about the origin of the separate self when Jenny is here. And then the fourth week, it's to be announced. I don't have a co-host for that week yet, but it's regarding the body. And I love the way John Pendergrast speaks about Rupert's in the foreword of this book. John speaks about how Rupert, um, he says, these essays are both timeless and contemporary. And I'll skip down. He says they are contemporary in expressing non-dual understanding in a way that is free of cultural baggage, and that is accessible and relevant to ordinary Westerners, which is most of us. I mean, we have some Europeans that are with us in the call-in feature, and we have some Europeans that are here live with us on the video. And so you guys are not the Westerners, but you get it. You get what Rupert is all about. And he says, but while some modern non-dual teachings, in my opinion, overly emphasize the transcendent, these writings include a healthy dose of immanence. It is a balanced approach, and the immanence is the manifest world, and that's one of the things that I totally love about Rupert is that he has you look at it as awareness, as the neti, and then he also brings you back in to experience the experiencer. to experience, to realize that you're not separate from the experience. In fact, the experience is the movie, and you are always, as he says, you're always the screen. And I love if you read the foreword by Pendergrast, I love the way he endorses this book. So if you have a copy of the book, if you don't have a copy, you probably want to get a copy of The Art and Practice of Peace and Happiness, and so that you can follow along with us. And then I just want to cover what Rupert says in the preface real quick. In the first paragraph, in the beginning of this book, Rupert says that this is a culmination, or he says he sort of examples it as a cellist. The cellist Pablo Casals explored and practiced Bach's cello suites for 35 years before recording them. In many ways, the contemplation in this book follow a similar approach, exploring a single theme with gentle but somewhat relentless devotion. And that's Rupert. You know, Rupert is, you can tell, I mean, he shows up, he's humble, but he embodies the teachings that are now part of what he is. He is the embodiment of many other teachings, many other teachers, and we get to experience Rupert's distillation of these thoughts, these ideas, and these real truth answers to really what are we, and how do we connect with this what we are. So I'm looking forward to Jenny being in week 3. The world with Andrea Fraze is week 5. The body is week 4. The world with Andrea Fraze is week 5. And then we're going to wrap this up. We're going to close it with Annika Brorchis with the intimacy of experiencing. And she is the perfect one to connect with and relate to this experience that is it's really what the pointings that Rupert is talking about. In my mind, I feel that Jenny and Annika, which are they're the most they've been with Rupert the longest, and they are the most reflection. They're the closest reflection of the material that I have known, that I've seen as students, as devotees, and now I feel that they're teachers in their own right. Just as I feel that our guest today that's on the show, our co-host, his name is Arthur Gay. Although Arthur he's a retired firefighter, and he is a Course in Miracles student, I kind of feel like Arthur might be a Navy SEAL too, because when he found Rupert Spira, he dove so deeply into Rupert Spira and then on to Francis Lucille. And I just I love this guy, and I want to give a warm welcome to you, Arthur Gay. Thank you for joining us on the show today. It is my privilege and my pleasure to have you join us.
Oh, it's an honor, Bill, to be on. Hi, everyone.
Nice. Yes. And the reason that Arthur, it's funny about Arthur. I'm going to give a little backstory about Arthur. Arthur comes to our Course in Miracles group often, and he helps me by operating the camera and wherever he can be helpful. And one of the things I love about Arthur is he is like, Arthur, you're just so immersed in this, in the teaching of Rupert and now Francis Lucille, and this, you got it right away. You got the connection as awareness. And I know that you're a little bit like me, at least I think you are, in that now that we have this experience of awareness that's available to us, we see things in a whole different frame of presence and a whole different frame of light. And I just love your energy and your participation wherever you show up. You show up as the truth, and I just love that about you.
Thanks, Bill. We started our own study group on Rupert Monday down here in Duxbury, Mass. And I was going to start with Francis's book that Rupert compiled, but I guess I got the guidance to go along with the book study. So we are doing the same book,
Yeah.
and it's amazing teaching because it's such a learning when we teach. And we have this 21-year-old in the group, and he's so open to everything. And he's just amazing to watch someone have an understanding right from the get-go of the teaching.
Mm.
And it's just nothing else.
Yeah. Yeah. I felt that same way about you, Arthur, when I met you. And as soon as you got just a little bit of interest in Rupert, immediately you saw what I saw 3 years ago when I first found Rupert. I thought, oh my God, this guy is I'm connected with what he's talking about. This is my teacher, and so I mean I love Muji, and Muji was my other than course teacher for many years. I still love Muji. He still points very clearly to the truth in the tradition and the way that he points. He is an embodiment of the message of Advaita. There's no doubt about it. Uh, for me, Rupert is made it so I can see from where Muji speaks, where he was always it was always I was always wondering where he was speaking from, but Rupert helped me to see from where I was noticing Muji was speaking from. And the thing I love about Rupert is that he is humble. He says, I went to a workshop in Garrison year before last, maybe about a year and a half ago. And someone in the audience was talking to Rupert and saying, I'm not like you. I can't see from where you see. And she was putting him, on a pedestal. And I love the way Rupert answered this woman. He said, let me just tell you, let me give you a little snapshot of where I see from. It's a little bit hot in here. I'm hungry. I think a mosquito bit me on the ankle and it itches. I want to scratch it. And, there's no difference between where I am and where you are. We're in the same place. And I loved having a teacher at Rupert's level where he absolutely is an embodiment of the Christ message, of consciousness message, and the message of the direct knowing of the experience. And he's just like this. He's having a human experience just like we are. So he's able to connect with us right where we are. And he doesn't make himself as some higher self, even though he's very much a guru in that regard. He is a guru of this message, and but I love the way he shows up. He just shows up as a master teacher, a master connection to this, a pointer of bringing us with simplicity to the understanding of this material.
Yeah, Rupert did the same for me with Jesus. He showed me how to understand where Jesus was coming from. But what I love about Rupert and the teaching is he shows me how to take it out into this human experience that I seem to be having.
Yeah,
And,
yeah, yeah,
being the knower and the known, when we come into that understanding and we take it out into the human experience, We can't do anything but love. We can't be anything but love.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what's so beautiful about the teaching.
Yeah. How is it? How has it changed for you? Where in your going out into the world experience, how has Rupert's teachings uh, uh, brought you into a different experience? Can you explain that?
Yeah, I'll give you an example. I spend a lot of time in recovery meetings, which is just a snapshot of society's experience. And today, I go in as a place of healing, and I can rest there in a seamless experience. It's just oneness. I don't sit there and judge what's said. I don't judge the people who's saying. I can just be at peace with everyone. And that wasn't my experience.
Before,
Yeah, previously.
right?
And I called it a realization this weekend. I called it my last lesson at home, and I came to understand that if I think someone outside of me is struggling, I still have work to do because it's just perfect outside of me. And when I can rest in that, it's the detachment
Yeah,
from the outside.
yeah.
And it's,
So when you say you still have work to do, what do you mean by that?
well, Rupert calls it the residual
Yeah,
arise. And I'll give it the other day, an anger came up in me like a rage. And before I could even sit with it and welcome it, it was gone all on its own. And these are little experiences that never happen. Um, it's that peace that we are, that love that we are. It's just a matter of practice, abiding in it, resting in it.
yeah,
And it's the pain and suffering and the struggle, they've detached. And they only stick now when I choose to let them stick.
yeah.
And I know this. And it's, this is all I do. This is life. And, uh, you know, I, I could just rest in myself and go about my business. Or I could also do that and teach. And to be with others as the oneness that we are. And we know that's not the correct word, oneness, but, like the definition of love is the dissolving of relationships. There's no other in love. And when we get that, it's wicked pissa, you know, and it just is. And it's amazing how people respond.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's amazing what happens in your life experience when instead of responding with words or reactions or opinions or judgment, when you're able to just rest in awareness, just to abide in this presence of knowing and not need to put words, just allow whatever occurs. I mean, words may happen, but there's not an investment. It dissolves the investment in the personal nature of what you thought you were. And
Go ahead, Bill.
well, I love this first chapter that we're going to talk about is called Our True Nature. That's the title of of these essays, and these are basically a compilation of essays. A lot of it looks like they came from his workshops, and they're just beautiful essays that are just holding to the truth, and they're just pointing to the truth. And in my for me, I get distracted with the mental mind things not as much as I used to, but I'll get distracted, and I'll be giving a lot. I'll be giving attention to thoughts, or I'll be giving attention to beliefs, or I'll be giving attention to the things that Bill Free is doing. And then when I notice that, it's usually the noticing of it comes from, wow, I don't feel like totally so great right now. What is, and then I recognize why I'm not feeling so totally great, because I've identified the I with the Bill. And instead of just watching and experiencing what Bill is doing, I have identified fully the I of the I am of consciousness with as a body, as a person, identity, and it doesn't feel good. The beingness that I am, when I make myself finite, I start to feel feelings of a finite level of experience, and it's filled with emotions, thoughts, feelings, beliefs, emotions, and so I get sucked into that. And what I love about this, not only the book study, I love the book study because getting into the material is a reminder for me to remember what I am and remember how to step back into that um, into that knowing of presence, into that being of awareness, where it's total peace, it's presence, it's clarity. It doesn't have any of the senses to clog it up and to make it experience moods or beliefs. And we have that available more and more the deeper we get into this material.
Yes, absolutely. You know, all the emotions and feelings and thoughts, they arise to be recognized and welcomed and allowed to release. But as
Yes.
soon as I make one personal, that's my struggle. That's when the struggle starts, when I make it a me. I make it Arthur. I make it personal.
Mhm.
And Rupert teaches us how to be the knower and the known, to be just the seer of it, the rising, the welcoming of it. That was a great lesson for me. Let it come up and welcome it. Be with it. Sit with it. Love it. When you take it into the quiet place, it can't last.
Yeah.
You know, and Francis Lucille talks about don't go looking for it, just be happy. And when it comes up, just welcome it.
Yeah. What do you mean? Can you clarify what you mean when you say that we become the knower and the known?
Yeah, I mean, like in the new book, The Art of Peace and Happiness, uh, you know, we walked out into dualism, and Rupert walks us back a step at a time. So when I first started doing it, I pictured a me, a world, and consciousness. This is how I worked it, and uh, consciousness being the seer of everything, all experience. So now, when experience rises, I'm the seer of the experience, awareness. I'm just aware. No experience happens without awareness. My presence, our presence, being there before the experience happens. So we're the knower of the known. But as we go into the teaching, we come to understand that we are all experience. Whatever arises, arises within awareness. It's made up of awareness, and it's just awareness knowing itself. And in the spiritual angle, it's called creation. God creates. That's how God knows itself.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what I really, it's so funny when the first time I heard Rupert say that he eluded that awareness is the same as God. I thought, is that true? And it is so totally true.
Yeah.
Awareness, presence, what we are. In fact, the Course points to this. I'm not going to bring the Course into our discussion today because this is about the book. But these other traditions, they point to the same thing, and they've been saying it, but I haven't been hearing from there. I wasn't able to hear that until I heard Rupert say it. And then I was able to hear it for myself that God is awareness. God is presence, and we're presence. We're not separate from that. So, what does that mean for us? That means that we are omnipresent. What we are, and I don't mean we as humans, as persons, as finite uh, experience, as the personal self. We are connected, so connected with God that there's no place that we can be separated from it, from the God experience, which in my mind, if I think of God because of my conditioned thinking mind, it's not so much anymore because now I feel like God is just what I am. But it used to be that God was out there
Right.
and God was in charge of the solar system and the planet and all everything and all of creation, and I wasn't. And not realizing that what God is, what I am, what my true essential self is the same as that. And it's only when I am concerned about what the personal self is doing, whether it's health, finances, relationships, busyness, doing this or that. It's only when I have identified what I am as the personal self that I forget what I am as the beingness, as a totality of what God is. And it's when I reduce myself to that connection of the personal self that I have the experience of all these temporary things to worry about. So it's so refreshing to me when I think about God being what all of us are, and as I think about you, or I think about one of these beings that's listening on the live on the call-in feature or the video. And if I see your image in a video here, or I speak to you in person, if I can rest in this place of awareness while I'm watching, while I'm observing and noticing and noting what the person Bill is doing, then I'll be much more fluid in my conversation because there will be no separation between me and who you are. There will be no separation in between me. And if I look at what Donald Trump is doing, or what one of the other countries in Europe or in the world is doing, and when I always look at them without an investment as the person, but just from the place of awareness, then I feel that the conditioned thoughts, the feelings, the beliefs that I have will gently dissolve into that knowing of the experience. And I won't be so quick to judge. I won't be so quick to have a personal preference, but I'll just be informed on what I'm to do next. And it won't be based on the past or the future or something that I've preconditioned myself to believe.
Yeah, it's thinking and thought does its job when it separates the experience. And experience is like Rupert says, it's seamless. It's just one experience. So when we come from awareness into our physical experience, we stop judging the separateness. I stop making it personal. This is how I always feel with myself. I don't make it personal.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
I was reading something today, and I think it was Francis Lucille, and he talked about we want to make this experience better than God does because everything is perfect.
Mm.
We
Yeah.
want to change the world. We want to battle with this and battle with that, and that's the separateness, and that's where the pain and suffering comes from.
Yeah.
It's the battle.
Yeah.
So when I can see, and that's what I was talking about when I see someone else is struggling, I still have work to do because I'm allowing my thought to separate it. I'm making it personal.
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody, Catherine just said, the God in me, I love this. She says, the God in me, no, the God in you speaks to the God in me. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
When I judge another, I judge myself, right?
Yeah. And Hillary says, yes, awareness as the essence of my being was my absolute awakening. And Rupert's explanations and clear languaging of that really validated and continues to value my experience or validate my experience. Yeah. Yeah, I think Rupert is, we're here to talk about Rupert's book, so let's get into it. And thank you guys for helping each other on the chat feature. And I have a few questions that I'm gonna, or at least a couple of questions. We'll get to the end, and I'll answer some questions that were emailed in from Henrik. And then if you guys that are in the call-in feature, if anyone has any comments or questions, please press *2. And getting into the material, when I look at page 5, who or what am I? I love the non-dual explanation that Rupert has for the separation. He says, before we know anything else, we first know our being. And this is true. And this is why, this is why none of us ever age. This is why none of us ever feel like what age we are. This is why this body sometimes does stupid acrobatics that 18-year-olds do, and it hurts itself because it doesn't know how old it is, because it doesn't have an age. He says, in fact, this knowing of our being is so simple and obvious, and above all, so apparently insignificant that it is usually overlooked. That's
It's
what we all do.
so quiet. The awareness that was aware of my birth is the same awareness that is aware that I'm sitting here talking to you.
Yes.
It's so simple, but it's so simple, it's easy to forget.
Yes. Yes. He says this forgetting and this being overlooked, it's like, yes, this is what lights all of us up, because we go, oh my God, I see from the self. I see from the being. All of a sudden, it's like you see the picture and it's you, and it is non judgmental. It's a non spatial, non time, non manifest. It's a non physical experience of being that is suddenly noticed, and it's always been right there.
Yeah. When I ask somebody, and I love to do this, I ask someone, "Where are you?" And they say, "I'm here." And I always, there's no place but here. There's no over there. That's just a concept. I'm always here. I'm always present.
You guys, I mean, you guys and gals, and I'll say guys and gals. Somebody corrected me and say I use guys too much. I use guys as a general kind of a universal male female term. So if I use guys a lot, it means both masculine and feminine guys and gals. Uh, the the I love the experience of what was I going to say? I forget what I was going to say now. Sorry. Um, Rupert goes on to say this forgetting or overlooking of our most intimate being, although apparently such a small thing, in fact, initiates almost all of our thoughts, feelings, activities, and relationships, and turns out to be the source of unhappiness. It's when we don't know what we are, we project ourselves, the I of consciousness projects itself into the finite experience, and then it forgets what it is. So it has the experience of the finite world. It draws itself into the experience of what it's not and leaves itself there. It leaves itself there.
So we've forgotten one thing, and it's the cause of all our pain and suffering. We've forgotten our being.
Yes.
So all we need to remember is one thing, our being.
Yeah. And we rest in that. I also love this other term that Rupert he encourages us to, to not, and this is why I love that last book that we followed, The Nature of Consciousness, because in that book, he brought us to the awareness, to neti neti, and then he also brought us back. He had us look at the different theories, the different beliefs that are out there, panpsychism and all these other different ideas. But he also brings you from awareness. He brings you to the knowing of the experience of being, and then he brings you back into the world because you're not separate from any of these thoughts. You're not separate from these. They're illusions, but they still came from what you are. They can't happen without you.
Yeah. Andrea says we're overlooked, never forgotten, and that's
Yes.
perfect.
Yes. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you for that. And a few of the other comments. Welcome everyone from British Columbia, Montana. Henrik, I think he's in Germany. Are you in Germany, Henrik? Florida. We have the Netherlands. We have Holland, UK. We have people from all over the world that have joined us. Thank you all for being with us. And then over here we have from around the US and then Panama and also British Columbia. So welcome everyone for being part of this call and this book study. And I think we have about 200 people that have registered for this book club. So many of you guys are going to be watching the replay, and we want to welcome all of you also to the group, and to also, if you're not in the Facebook group, what I found in the Facebook group is there's a sort of an afterglow. There's a place to put questions in there. I don't get on Facebook very much. I get on Facebook maybe a couple of times a week. So I'm not in there very much, but when I go in there, I'm just delighted to see the interaction that is happening in the Facebook group. There's about 150 people in there, and it's a great place to go if you have additional questions and comments or things that someone there might be helpful in just opening up for you or giving you another way to see. And of course, we have our favorite librarian over there, Jenny Beal, and she is like she's the download for Rupert. In my mind, she's a female version of Rupert, because she's just like, she pulls all of his teachings right out of a hat and delivers them in YouTube form. I love it. And so what else, what's your favorite section on these essays?
I was just going to ask you if I could share it.
Yes.
It's on page 15, The Forgetting of Our Essential Being. It's the second paragraph. It reads, "We have forgotten that we are the one that is aware of thoughts, feelings, images, and sensations, and instead believe, and more importantly feel, that we actually are those thoughts, feelings, images, and sensations." And then the first paragraph on page 16, partway down, it reads, "Our essential being is objectless, transparent, open, empty, aware presence. It has no objective qualities that pertain to the body or mind, and it is precisely because of this that we are capable of the entire range of thoughts, feelings, and perceptions without ever actually becoming a thought, feeling, or perception. This is just a beautiful explanation of how thoughts, feelings, and emotions arise. And they're not who we are, but they're made up of awareness. They arise within awareness, but we are the knower.
Yeah.
And in truth, we are the knower, the known. We are just awareness.
Mm.
There's nothing outside of it. God is. There's nothing outside of it.
Yeah, and the joy that this gives me, the joy that this gives us, is that we're no longer bound and chained and connected and tethered to the belief system that makes us suffer. We're no longer we actually have an ability in the recognition of the being, in the instant recognition of the being, and we will be reminded the truth of what we are. The light in us will remind us to rest in awareness. It will remind us. I mean, we might get temporarily uh, distracted, pulled into an old default because of the residual memory. But then the light in us will remind us. It's my experience, and all of the beings that I know that have opened their mind to the beingness that they are. They are, we might have some temporary distractions, but we come back to this knowing of the experience of being where joy is, where peace is, and it's where certainty is, so that when we do come back into that experience of being, we are informed. The personal self is then informed from a divine nature. It's the personal self that is now the mind that is fully surrendered to the heart, is now able to receive divine impression, divine expression, is now has a place to flow through, instead of arresting it and stopping it as a belief and a thought that keeps us now trapped.
As we practice abiding in ourselves, allowing the emotions and feelings to arise and be welcomed, they dissolve. We start having them less.
Yes.
And I use the word practice because in the beginning, it is a practice. We have to practice. I used to dedicate a couple hours every day for meditation, one in the morning, one at night.
Yep.
It's become what I am. And I still do my sit down hour meditation, but we're always in a meditation. We're always coming from that quiet place. Yeah. And even when we get distracted for a little bit, we can get right back to it.
Yeah.
We can rest in it at any time.
Yeah.
And that's the peace that we are.
Yes. Yes. Andrea said on page 5, our being obviously cannot forget or overlook itself, because the knowing of our own being is not something we do. It is what we are. Yeah, that's true. The light in us only needs the light in us is just waiting for itself, for us to give room for it to be recognized. And Henrik sent a couple of questions in, and I'm just going to mention, if I can find it here. He said, let's see. He said, here are a few questions. The more light that is coming in, the more the mind seems to react and even attack. Is this something you recognize? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Everyone, we don't recognize, it's something that I recognize. And I also have come to realize that when the light comes in, it stirs up the pot, man. And the more light that comes in, the more the stuff. You'll hear this from Muji, you'll hear it from Rupert, as Rupert would call it residual. Muji would call it burping up. And it's just the light source. It brings all that stuff to the surface. So because it's the light wants to express it, it wants us to see those things, but it also wants us not to have an attachment to any of those things, because we are not that. We are what we are, this, and this is coming from that. But these things that would cause any kind of discomforts, these things that would cause a reaction, means that I have attached myself to a belief as a personal self. If there's attack involved, it's because it's personal. It's always going to be personal. If attack or reaction, any of those things are involved, it's because I have temporarily forgotten what I am.
Yes, I find that, and I've been going through this experience lately, is my thoughts bringing up some old stuff that's been gone for a long time, and trying to dig it in. And I think eventually we get to a point where our thoughts understand what's going on, that they're being released. And there's a fight back there. And but we just do this. We do the same practice. We just abide in ourselves. We just rest in the truth. Take a breath.
Yeah.
That's all we need to do.
I used to be a Bible person for over 20 years, a born again Bible person. And I am so grateful that is so totally wrong. But I'm also more grateful that it's better. What the world has to look forward to and what the world has available is so much better that it's like Christmas Day every day. It's just wonderful. There's another question. I'll see if we have time to answer it. What I perceive as insights often, this is a good one. I love this. What I perceive as insights often quickly disappear in quicksand. Why? Well, I feel that Rupert actually answers that it might be in the foreword of his book, Henrik. He talks about truth comes in, and it's like, or maybe it's Pendergrass that talk about it. The truth comes in and it's like writing in the sand, or it's like writing on water. The truth writes the truth, and then it's not there. And if I don't write stuff down, if I'm getting some insight and it's like, I call it God currency, because it's like we're channeling in its direct connection with source, with our divineness. And as we're doing that, it impresses this mental picture, or this mental story, or this download. It's like you get this whole download all of a sudden, and it's like, wow. And if you don't write it down, it vaporizes. Happens to me all the time.
Yeah. It's like music. It's like a song. You hear
Yeah.
a song, and when it's over, it's gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then we can just be happy.
Yeah.
Our only purpose here is to be happy.
Yeah. Well, this book, this writing that we are just enjoying and partaking of, is Rupert taking those impressions, taking those divine ideas and putting them on paper, and also delivering them into an audience. And he's connected, because a lot of these things are workshop collections, their workshop commentary, things that he shared from having that open mind, that open space, and he shared directly, and then it got transcribed for us
Yeah.
to partake of. And that when we're in that connection, what that says to me for Henrik is that he's really getting that God currency. He's making that connection with the being. And I think for most of us, it comes in glimpses. It comes in small little glimpses. We'll notice and we'll say, "Oh, well, wow, that was a profound thought, huh? That came from me. Holy shit!" And it's so good. And so we're all connected with Source because we are all what God is. There's no separation between what God is and what we are. And there was a couple of comments here. Annika said, and it was just a great thing, a great comment. I no longer have to fit into anything, not into a world nor a body, because there is just this open, empty space. The world and body are names given to life dancing in me. I am life free.
It's beautiful. What do I need to do? Nothing.
Yeah, yeah,
Just rest in the self.
yes, yes,
Then I get to choose what I do
yeah,
in the physical experience.
yeah. And what I love about this venue, this experience that we're all having right here today, is these are all reminders. These are all these are descriptive of what Rupert is saying is available to all of us, and we're able to express both by video and also by chat how this, and then you guys, however, you guys are what your experience is in listening, that we're able to experience these ideas not because they're Rupert's, but they're what Rupert is what I am. Rupert is not separate from me. This place that Rupert draws this from I'm connected to that same. In fact, I am that same consciousness.
Yeah.
There's no place where Rupert is, or where Jesus is, or Moses, or Abraham, or any of the great sages, Muji or Yogananda, or any of the beings that their form came in and deposited truth into consciousness so that this finite self could awaken to the self that it is, the truth that it is.
Consciousness is shared.
Yes.
There's
And
it's
it is,
not available to a special few.
right, right. And Annika said something beautiful here. She said, the brighter the light, the deeper we can see into the cave of meanness, full of dust, full of dust bunnies and skeletons. When it surfaces, that is a sign the looking and explorations work. Amen. Right on.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's. I was sharing with someone on a conference call that we have once a month. This guy that's in one of our groups. He's in our Living in Purpose Mastery course, and he said the same thing. He says, the more I meditate, the more I like read the course, things the more things happen. It seems like I'm getting deeper, more shit is hitting the fan because of my meditations and my quiet time. And I said, well, yeah, that's what happens. That stuff, you've got light. Now the light is bringing that stuff to the surface so that you can see. It might be obstructing your vision a little bit, and it's but a veil that's being brought to your attention for the thinning of the veil so that you can see through that from really from what you are. One more question. Suddenly, when things seem to be going well, everything can feel meaningless. How come? Well, I think Annika really speaks to that question. She so fully has embodied this no this no personal me. She's like she's not even Annika is the person is just like dancing now. She's watching this person dance, and I feel that that happens in some ways. It really does happen. So that's our no investment in the personal self so much. So the personal self distractions are not so much distractions anymore. And it's not that they're not meaningless, they're meaningless. It seems that we just don't take everything so serious, right?
Yeah. You know, I get that once in a while. Someone will ask, I just feel dull, empty. And it's because thought doesn't know what to attach to. So it attaches to the closest thing it thinks it can call peace. That quiet, it calls it dull or empty. And then we experience the dull or empty with the thought
Yeah.
because we attach to it. But if we can let the thought be, that dullness will dissolve along with the thought.
Yeah. Yeah. Andrea says, my experience of things that come up that feel uncomfortable are happening because it wants to be released. Yes. And that needs our love to hold them and release them into the open, empty space that they arose from. Love heals all. Yeah, thank you for that, Andrea. I liked what I find is like when things are upsetting me now, whether it's something that's just a slight annoyance or just a little disturbance of my peace, or if it's something that like one of my kids is doing something, or I have an investment in like an old marriage relationship, if I have some energy on that, I find when I just come into this quiet place and just be awareness, noticing the disturbance, just noticing whatever is occurring, not trying to chase it, not trying to figure it out, just allowing myself to rest in peace about it, that it self resolves. It self resolves. It's what I call. I mean, it's a quantum forgiveness experience. It's where what the course would call forgiveness, or the true nature of forgiveness, or allowing the illusion to dissolve into the presence of consciousness. It just dissolves into the nothingness that it came from. It dissolves back into the screen of I am. Yeah. Well, we have only a couple of minutes left on today's call. What would you, Arthur, tell me your most favorite takeaway from this section, the our true nature? And what's the most important page numbers that you found of these sections?
On page 32,
32?
second paragraph, it reads, whatever we give our attention to flourishes. Whatever we give our attention to becomes our reality. In giving our attention to ourself of aware presence, attention is relieved of its direction. Focus or attention stands revealed as presence itself. The one that is looked for stands revealed as the one that is looking. I am that I seek. It's
Nice.
perfect.
Beautiful. What a perfect way and content to leave us with today, Arthur. Thank you for being our guest host on the show today, and it's been wonderful. I knew it would be. I love you,
Thank you,
my.
Bill. I
He
love
looks
you
like
too.
me, doesn't he? You guys, we both look alike. I love it. I'm
I'm
looking
his
at.
body double.
I, love it. I don't quite have that Massachusetts that language that you have. That's so that
The
uh,
wicked good language.
That wicked good language. Well, thank you all for joining with us. This has been a great looking at this first section, and I want to thank all of the call-in guys and gals for joining with me. And I forgot to press the recorder on the call-in feature, so you guys don't try to call back and get the recording because it's not going to be there. However, if you got your link, you can get the replay of the video. You can download the video, watch it on YouTube, whatever you want to do. But I'm just looking up here. I forgot to press the recording button. So sorry about that. And next week, we have The Nature of Peace and Happiness and Love with Kimberly Cartwright. And you guys join us next week, and I'll see you then. Thank you all. I love you. Bye, Arthur. Peace,
Bye,
brother.
Bill. You too.